have a descriptive introduction so that the audience is aware of what you are going to present. And you need to also think about a clear set of main points, and they should be ordered in a logical sequence. There should be a beginning, there should be a middle, and there should be an end. And once you are done with that sequence, you should have a focused conclusion. There should always be a take-home message from your presentation that the audience can grasp, right? So you need to think about the overall structure of the presentation carefully before preparing your presentation. Then it's about how you plan to do an effective presentation. What are the things that you need to think about? So these are some of the factors that you need to consider. Obviously, you need to think why you are doing the presentation, which means you should have a list of objectives for doing the presentation. So you list down the objectives. So the idea of this set of objectives is once you complete your presentation, you should have achieved these objectives. So it's a good idea to start with a set of objectives, why you are doing this presentation. Then also, who you are presenting to, your audience. You have to carefully think of who your audience is so that you can prepare your presentation accordingly. Who is it that is going to listen to you? What things you should consider based on your audience? It should be different if you are presenting your work to some school children and if you are presenting it to a panel of examiners. So depending on the audience, you have to arrange your presentation. Then very important, another factor that is very important is how long, the time allocation. One of the things that we oftentimes see, especially during academic presentations, is students oftentimes fail to limit their time to the allocated time when they do the presentation, which is having a negative impression on the presenter himself or herself, because that partly shows that you have not prepared well. So it is important to check how long should be given, how long is given, how much time is given for you to present, and plan your presentation accordingly. So this is a very important thing that you have to consider. And also other factors like where you are presenting, the venue. Why is it important for you to think about the venue? Any thoughts? When you are presenting, when you are planning for your presentation, why do I say that you have to think of the venue as well? Where you are presenting. What is the reason for thinking about the venue where you are presenting? Because when you plan your presentation, if you think of a small classroom setup, as opposed to a larger auditorium during which where you are presenting, your planning should differ. Depending on the venue itself, you have to plan your presentation. And also, there are different facilities at different venues. So you might also want to think about what facilities are available at a given venue when you are planning for the presentation. So it is also important for you to think about the venue as well. There were some raised hands. Did you want to share some idea? Let me check. So I have allowed those two who have raised hands to talk. So if you want to share something. Did you want to share something? Okay. Let me know if you want to share something. We'll continue. So these are the factors to be considered when you plan for your presentation. Why, who, how long, and where. And then we'll talk about some useful tips that you can use. So these are all following into the general guidelines. There are no strict rules on how you can prepare and arrange your presentation. These are some guidelines and some useful tips that you can use, right? So when you prepare your presentation, it is advised that you choose descriptive headings, a heading that tells the audience what you are talking about during that particular part of your presentation. And also, you need to think about what font size, things like what font sizes are appropriate for the presentation. And also, when you arrange your layout for your oral presentation, you have to think about an overall design scheme, and it is better if you can maintain consistency. For example, if you have a set of PowerPoint slides like I do now, if it is an academic presentation, it is best if you can have consistency throughout the presentation, meaning you don't have one slide with a particular design and the next slide with a completely different background and colors and so on, which might be disturbing to an audience who is listening to your academic presentation. So generally, it is advised that you use an overall design scheme and maintain consistency throughout the slides. If you are preparing your slides, for example, using PowerPoint like I do, like I said. And also, oftentimes, you tend to use figures and visuals as part of your presentation. One important thing to remember when you do that is, if you are using your figures and visuals coming from an available resource, not created by you, it is always good to cite from where you have taken those images, visuals, videos, and all those resources. You give credit to whoever has created those visuals, figures. If it is created by you, that's fine. Otherwise, wherever possible, it's best if you can put a reference to the place from where you have taken your figures and visuals. More useful tips. One important thing that you need to think about is, once you have, if you are doing an oral presentation, you prepare some set of slides using a given tool, make sure you proofread the slides. There might be language errors, there might be spelling errors. It is best if you can minimize as much as possible such errors before doing the presentation. It is best if you don't have any errors, any language or spelling errors on the slides. But sometimes you might have tiny errors here and there, but it's best if you can minimize such errors. So what do you need to do? You proofread your slides before going ahead with the presentation, the actual presentation, right? You can also do that while you practice. So practicing the presentation is also a key thing that you should do. You have planned well for the presentation, you prepared a nice set of slides, but at the end of the day, if you can't go in front of your audience and present it nicely, the whole effort will be wasted. Which means it is best if you can practice your presentation before you go and do the actual presentation. So how can you practice your presentation? When I say practice the presentation, what can you do? Since we already have several people who have done presentations, I'm sure you have done your practicing as well. How did you do your practice sessions before the actual presentation? What are the things you do? What did you do when you did your presentations? Any thoughts? So the important thing about practicing is when you practice in front of an actual audience, before doing the actual presentation, you get important, useful feedback that you can use to improve your presentation. There might be places where you are not explaining things clearly. There might be slides that are not done appropriately. Your voice variation, your hand gestures, your body movements. When you go and practice in front of an actual audience, you get feedback about all these things, which might be very useful for you to improve your presentation. If it is, it's ideal if you can do it in front of sort of colleagues or even your family members, your sisters, brothers, whoever you can find. But if it is difficult for you to find someone, like it is mentioned by Minha, you can practice in front of a mirror, which is a very good suggestion. Thank you for that suggestion. So if it is difficult for you to find an audience, at least you can find a mirror. Find a mirror, go in front of the mirror and do your presentation and see how you do it. Here, when you do it in front of a mirror, you see how you move, how you have your facial expressions, how you have your body movements. So these things you can test when you practice in front of a mirror. So thank you for that suggestion. That is something probably you can make use of when you do your presentations. And also, you can present your presentation and test whether it works fine. For example, if you have videos to be played during the presentation, if you have images that you are including, you have to test whether they are displayed properly. So these things are things that you can do beforehand in order to make sure your presentation is arranged well and you can present the content well. And the last point is also important. Why is it important? So the last point says, save in multiple places. Why is that important? So you have a soft copy of your presentation now ready, prepared using some tool and now ready to be presented. Now it is advised that you should save it in multiple places. Why? Because it will be a disaster if you go in front of your audience and try to open your presentation and you can't find your presentation. Or there is some error and you can't open your presentation. So if you have it saved in multiple places, you can quickly go to an alternative place and find your presentation and use it. So it is safe for you to have your presentation, several copies. You can email it to yourself. You can put it in a cloud. You can carry it in external hard drive. So there are various options you can think of. Places where you can quickly find your presentation from if there's something wrong with the copy that you had ready for the audience on the day of the presentation. So think of these useful tips when you are getting ready for a presentation. Now that we talked about different things that you have to consider when you prepare for the presentation and how you arrange your presentation and things that you can use as useful tips, now we'll talk about some actual tools that you can use. Now, before showing my list that I have included here, let's hear from you. I'm sure all of you have used presentations tools at one point or the other. So I would like to hear from you. Let me know what kind of tools you have used to prepare your oral presentations. If you have not done it yourself, at least I'm sure you are aware of such available tools. So I will give you a couple of minutes to give me an answer mentioning different oral presentation tools that you are aware of or that you have already used. Let's hear from you. I will give you a couple of minutes and let you type your answers. You can use the chat or it's okay to use the Q&A as well. So let me know what kind of presentation tools you have already used or you are aware of. There's a raised hand, S22408. Did you want to share something? You can speak up if you want. I have given you permission to talk if you want to talk. Okay, now I see several answers in the Q&A regarding different types of oral presentation tools. Let me read some of your answers. Most of you have given Microsoft PowerPoint as the tool because that's, I believe, one of the most commonly used presentation preparation tools. Other than that, there are several others and other answers as well. So let me read some of those answers. Google Slides are there. OpenOffice is there. LaTeX packages are there. Canva is there. Very good. So this shows that you are already familiar with several presentation tools, which is helpful because you will need these tools when you are actually preparing for your academic presentations in the years to come. Very good. So almost all the answers contain the most popular tools that are out there, which is good. That shows that you are aware of these tools. Right. Okay, let's continue. So let's see what I have on the list here. Obviously, PowerPoint, because it's the most commonly used one. I believe most of you have used PowerPoint at some point to prepare some slides. And then LaTeX packages. Some of you probably are familiar with it. There are raised hands. Let me check. Yes. Did you want to talk? I have given you permission to talk. Okay, let's continue. So some of you probably are aware of LaTeX, but probably some of you are not. But once you are here, when you do lab sessions, you will start learning about this tool as well, which is a very useful tool. And it is better if you can use this tool, especially when you are preparing your academic presentations, both oral and written. We'll talk a little bit more about this tool as we move. Then you can do presentations on Google Drive using Google Slides. Some of you mentioned that as well. Then OpenOffice was also mentioned. What is good about OpenOffice is it's an open source tool. What is an open source tool? I'm sure you talked about this in the earlier sessions. What is an open source tool? Let's see whether you remember what you have discussed in other sessions during this course. Or maybe you learned already about that elsewhere before discussing that in the course itself. What is an open source tool? Why is it good? Yeah, Minha has an answer. Adits, what about you? What do you mean by an open source tool? Let's wait for a few others to give an answer to what that means. Good. Anuttara has an answer too. So these are tools that are developed by a community of developers, and they make it open to anyone who want to use it free of charge. That is the most important thing about open source tools. You don't have to pay anything, and they keep improving those tools and add more features, for example, to those tools they develop, which are freely available to anybody who want to use them. That is what is good about open source tools and what is good about being able to use open source tools. What else? There are so many other online presentation creators that you can think of. I have given one example only here. These are commercial tools, obviously, and that means you have to pay and use those tools. But there are nice tools also that give you a lot of features that you can use within them. So now what we are going to do is to look at briefly some of these tools that I have listed here. PowerPoint, of course, I don't have to explain in detail probably because most of you have given that as the answer when I asked the question what tools that you are familiar with, what tools you have used already. PowerPoint was the one that was named by majority of you. And in fact, I am using Microsoft PowerPoint to I have used Microsoft PowerPoint to prepare the slides that I'm using right now as well. So I'm sure almost all of you are aware of that as a tool to do presentations, right? And I'm sure you were already informed about Office 365 that you can use while you are here, which means you can use this as a tool to do your prepare your presentations. Then the second one is something that I think one of you have mentioned that. So I believe most of you are probably not aware of this particular tool. So you write it as LaTeX, but the pronunciation goes either as LaTeX or LaTeX. So that's how you pronounce it, LaTeX or LaTeX. So this is a tool that you can use to typeset, we say, professional looking documents. So what is specific about this tool as opposed to others is you are given with the possibility of concentrating on arranging your document without worrying so much about how it is visually seen. You don't, there are raised hands again. Let me know if you want to talk so that I can let you talk. There were 2 raised hands. I already allowed you to talk. Please let me know if you want to talk, right? So LaTeX is a presentation tool that you can use in order to create, like I was mentioning, professional looking documents. So there is a specific way how LaTeX documents are created. You will be learning about this tool and how it can be used. So what I'm mentioning here, what I'm showing here is the collaborative LaTeX editor that is called Overleaf. So already now, since you are with your devices, you can quickly type and search for Overleaf as well. So those of you who want to try that, you can try it even now. You can create an account using your Google accounts and sign in. And then you are given with the possibility of creating LaTeX documents. And you can start, as you can see here, you can start by following the tutorial that is here, which will allow you to learn LaTeX in a short time. So there's a nice tutorial that comes with Overleaf that teaches you the basics of how LaTeX can be used, right? And then there are nice templates available that you can use. So LaTeX actually can be used to prepare both reports as well as presentations. So we will talk about how LaTeX can be used to prepare presentations, but in the next session, we will talk also about how LaTeX can be used to prepare written documents in a nice way. We say in a professional manner, right? So some of you probably have already checked this, so you can create your Overleaf account already now. and learn about LaTeX, because it will be very useful for you to learn about it already. Because in some of the courses, we actually specifically ask you to create LaTeX documents and also presentations using LaTeX. So maybe it's a good thing, since you have time now before you start the actual in-person sessions at the university, since you have enough time at your hand, maybe it's a good way to spend your time by learning a new tool like this one, which is very useful for you during your academic career. So I would advise you to start doing that now. That is specifically why I show this tool here as well. So maybe you can already start with learning LaTeX starting from today. So like I said, LaTeX can be used to prepare written presentations as written reports, as well as it can be used as a tool to prepare presentations. So Beamer is one of the tools that is in LaTeX. It's a LaTeX class that can be used to create presentations, right? So again, within Olive, you have a nice description of how Beamer can be used in order to create nice presentations. So I would advise you to go through this part as well, right? Beamer is a presentation creation tool that is with LaTeX. So if you use Beamer, this is just an example of a presentation I have created some time back using Beamer. So this is how you will actually create your presentation. You have a specific format that you use that you can easily get used to in order to create your presentation. Once you have done that, you have a tool within LaTeX that will create the formatting without you have to worry about formatting part of creation of the presentation, right? It will give you really nice layout for your presentation if you compare it to some of the other tools, even the commercially available ones. So these are tools that you can use to create very professional looking presentations, if you want to put it that way, right? So you can try Beamer as well by going through the simple introductions. Some examples are already given in the Olive documentation. You can go through that and try and create your own Beamer presentations and see how it goes. Because it will be, again, like I said, useful for you to know it beforehand, because you will actually be using this while you are here, right? So that is about LaTeX and Beamer as a presentation tool. Then it was mentioned by some of you as well, you can use Google Slides. You have your accounts and you can log in and go ahead and use Google Slides as well. So again, they have nice templates. Beamer also has nice templates that you can already use and edit to put your content in. Similarly, Google Slides also, there are several nice looking presentation slides, templates rather, that you can make use of straight away in order to create your presentations. So what is good about using Google Slides in order to create your presentations? What are the advantages you have when you use Google Slides? Anybody who can think of advantages that you have when you use Google Slides? If you create your presentations using Google Slides, any advantages you can think of? Of course, you have templates that you can use. That's one thing, which I already mentioned. But other than that, anything you can think of? Let's see answers. There are answers. Yes, you have correct answers, many of you. Tarini has an answer. Ginura has an answer. Anuttara again has an answer. So Tarini says can access from any device. Yes, since you can log into your account from anywhere, you can have easy access to your presentation. And you can easily work as a group on the same presentation, because you can access it from anywhere and you can collaboratively develop that. That is also a positive thing about using this. And Anuttara also says collaboration is possible in an easier manner if you have Google Slides. Very correct. So others, okay, there's one more answer by Minha. A group of people can do a work simultaneously. Very good. So I'm happy that you all are giving answers. Only thing is, I see the same names coming up when you give answers. So I would really like others also to contribute and give answers in the Q&A when I ask questions. So it shows that you are really there and you are listening and you are contributing to the discussion here, right? Good. So you can try that as well. So what I'm showing you here is just one slide I have prepared for a Toastmaster presentation using Google Slides. So you can use a given template. As you can see, all the tools that you usually have in, say, for example, PowerPoint, you can use them here as well. And you can edit your slides and you can easily share your slides as well, right? So since I have been talking a lot until now, maybe it might be a little boring for you as well. So let's try some exercise. I don't have anything specifically prepared as an exercise, but I would like you to give it a go. Try and prepare a slide using one of these tools that we have already talked about. And maybe I can let some of you share your slide and maybe mention something about what you have done in creating those slides. Shall we try that? Let's take 5 minutes. You can use any of these tools that we mentioned. So there are so many other options as well. Let me quickly show the other options as well before we do this exercise. So we talked about Beamer, we talked about Google Slides, and there are so many other tools. This is also an open source tool that you can use, which is an HTML presentation framework, again, with several templates, nice looking templates that you can use. So you might want to try that as well. Reveal. Some of you probably have already used this tool as well. And one more tool I have listed here, which is not a free tool, a commercially available tool. But these tools, the good thing is they incorporate newer technologies quickly into their tools so that those can become popular and people start using them. Like it is mentioned here, they incorporate AI into their tools so that you can use that feature as well when we create your presentations, right? So this is one such commercially available tool that I'm showing here, but there are several other tools that you can think about. So that's one of the things I would like you to do. So many other options are there. I would like you to explore and find out about all those other options that are there that could be used for you to prepare an effective academic presentation. So I highlight this term academic because like we already mentioned, there are specific things that you consider when you prepare your academic presentation as opposed to a business presentation maybe, or another project presentation that you might be doing outside, right? So you have to think of that notion of an academic presentation when you prepare your presentations here during your academic career. Now going back to my original idea of doing it on your own, let's try using one of these tools to prepare maybe one single slide. Let's take, I would give you, let's say 10 minutes. Since you have access to online tools as well, go ahead, pick any topic you want, create one slide using one of these tools, and those who wish to share it with others, your colleagues, I will let you share. 10 minutes. We'll take those 10 minutes to do that. Let's try. If anything is not clear, please ask. I hope the task is clear. You prepare one single slide using a topic of your choice, using any of these tools based on your preference. And those who wish to share your slide, I will let you share. We take 10 minutes to do that. Let's try. Small announcement while you are working on your task. I still see some of you with only a name. Since we want to record your attendance, please make sure you rename yourselves with your name and the registration number. There are several of you with just a name. Please make sure you rename yourselves with your registration number and the name. Otherwise, you will have to be excluded from the list. I still see 2 of you, please. It's just a name. Hasit, I think you also have to rename. Please rename with your registration number. Zehani, please rename. Include your registration number. Zehani, I hope you can hear me. Please rename yourself. So when the 10 minutes are over, I'll call some of your names and I will allow you to share your screen. And then you will share the slide you have prepared. So be ready for that. I will call out some names and ask you to share. And please keep in mind your slide doesn't have to be perfect. And you have available templates that you can use. So try to simply edit one of those templates maybe. Because you will be actually learning about these tools when you are here in person. So today it's just a trial, just to get some experience on use of these tools. So don't worry about trying to make it perfect. I just want you to try and see how it can be done. So don't worry if there are errors, mistakes. Doesn't have to be perfect. So there's still a raised hand. Dulaksha, do you want to say something? Okay. So if you want to speak up and discuss something, please raise your hand and I will allow you to talk. So I said I would name some of you and ask you to share your slide when it is ready. But I can also give the opportunity first to the volunteers if there are any who are willing to share first. So if you are willing, if you would like to share your slide, you can raise your hand and I will give you the opportunity to those first, and then I will talk to others as well if they have slides ready. So raise your hand if you wish to show your slide. Then I will give the opportunity to you first and then go to the others. UGS Taraka, please rename. I hope you know how to rename. Rename with your registration number. Taraka, are you there? UGS Taraka. Please rename with your registration number. So once again, raise your hand if you wish to share your slide. So if there are no volunteers, I'll name some volunteers. So is the time enough? Are you ready with the slide? How many of you are ready with the slide? Let's see a show of hands. So raise your hand if you have a slide ready by now. Okay, very good. Chamod has a slide ready. Dulanya has a slide ready. Very good. Dulanya, your slide is ready, right? Okay. Minha has a slide ready. Good. Aditya has one ready. Ashmita has one ready. Ashmita has a slide ready. Good. Very good. So I assume that you are ready to share it as well. And maybe say a few words about the tool you have used. Briefly, don't worry. Very briefly, you can say I have used this tool and this is my slide. This is what my slide is about. Just two sentences, right? Okay, good. Others, hope you are working on it. We'll stop this exercise in a couple of minutes and then few of those who have raised hands will go first and others can follow if you wish to, right? In fact, there are two Adityas, one with number 005 and one with 381. So now I'm not sure which one raised hand, maybe both of you. But I will call Aditya in the name Aditya and then whoever is ready with the slide, you can share. Okay, I think we can start. Let me allow all of you to share the slide. So since this is a webinar, I will upgrade whoever is ready to share to a panelist and then you can share. Okay. So I think we can start. Okay, so who is going first? Minha, would you like to share? You can raise your hands. I can see you easily and then I can upgrade you to a panelist so that you can share. Can you please raise your hands, those who are willing to share the slides? There were several hands that were raised before. If I can see them again, I can upgrade you to a panelist and you can share your slide. Who would go first? Okay, good. Minha. Minha, you can go ahead and share your slide now. Yes, Minha, you can share. And you should also be able to talk. You can unmute and speak, and you can also share. Very good. I hope others can see the slide Minha has prepared. Very nice. So now Minha can tell us what tool she has used and maybe one or two things about her slide itself. Go ahead, Minha. Keep the slide. You can unmute and speak. You can keep the slide, Minha, and then you can tell us what tool you have used. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Minha.
I used Microsoft PowerPoint. This
Very
slide.
good. Very good.
And pictures that the logo of our university. And that's it. I just changed the font and sizes.
Okay. So did you use an existing template, Minha?
Yeah, I used it.
Yeah, good. So she just took an existing template that is appropriate for her task. And then she has included the university logo and included some details on the slide. And she has used Microsoft PowerPoint. Thank you, Minha.
Thank you.
Now let's look at other slides others might have prepared. So who else would like to go? So I appreciate the fact that Minha came first. So we should appreciate that. And now the opportunity is given to somebody else who would like to do the same. Who else would like to show the slide that you have prepared? Now that we have looked at a slide prepared using PowerPoint, is there anyone who has used another tool, maybe, who would like to show the slide? Raise your hand if you want to show your slide. Let's take at least a few more slides. It would be nice to see different tools being used and different layouts being used. So let's look at least a few more slides. Who would like to go? Aditya, would you like to show your slide? Who else were there? Dulanya. I think you also raised your hand. Dulanya, would you like to show your slide? Raise your hand if you'd like to do that. Then I can let you share. Okay, let's give two more opportunities to two people who would like to share. Who would go first? Good, Malindu. Thank you. Okay, Malindu, you can share your slide first and then unmute and explain to us what tool you have used and what the slide is about. Okay, Malindu, you can share your slide. Yes, we can see the slide now. And you can tell us what tool you have used. Others can already see actually what tool he has used, but you can mention that and tell us a bit about what the slide is. You can unmute and speak, Malindu. And if you click slideshow, it will go to the presentation. You can see that. And like it was mentioned, you can easily share and edit as a group in this tool. Malindu, would you like to say something about your tool and the slide? You can unmute. Would you like to speak up, Malindu? Okay, right. So you cannot speak up because you don't have the mic. Right, that's fine. That's fine. You have shared your slide. We can see that you have used Google Docs, Google Drive for the presentation, and you can easily share and edit as a group and use this tool. Can access this slide from anywhere when you look at it. Okay, now we have Pamodya. Okay, Pamodya, let me promote you. Now, Pamodya, you can share your slide and tell us a bit about it. Good. Right.
Good morning, madam. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Pamodya, go ahead.
I had made 2 slides.
Mm-hmm.
Should I share it?
Yeah, you can put it in slideshow maybe, and you can tell us a bit about the 2 slides you have prepared, if you wish. Yes.
I made this presentation to show you the last book I want to read before the end of the 2024. So it is a
It's
book
a very, very nice wish, I must say. Good. Go ahead.
Okay. It was a book by the billionaire David Rockefeller. He was a banker. Uh, this book was written by himself, and he is one of my role models. And
Mhm.
this is the presentation, madam. Thank you for the opportunity.
Very nice. So I think we all should appreciate two things. One, the fact that he prepared the 2 slides and presented it nicely, and also the nice wish he has. Very good. So thank you for that. We all should appreciate Pramod, your effort as well as your keen interest in reading such books. Very good. So we can give opportunity to 1 or 2 more people if you would like to go. So let me know by raising your hand. Okay, Bhagya. Go ahead, Bhagya. I think while Bhagya is getting ready, we have 1 more in the line. Sumla, we'll give the opportunity to you next. Okay, Bhagya, you go ahead.
Madam, I used PowerPoint to make this slide,
Mhm.
and I chose to make the evolution of the light bulb, and the image was generated by AI, as
Oh.
I couldn't find any proper image.
That's nice. That's very nice that you use generative AI to create the image you wanted. I mean, you have endless opportunities now with all these new tools. If you can't find an appropriate image with the available resources, you can always go ahead and create your own images like you did. So, Bhagya, you did that nicely. So you have the evolution of the light bulb nicely illustrated using 1 single image. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, now we have 1 more who is going to present. So, Zumla, I will promote you and you can go ahead and share. Go ahead, Zumla. You can tell us what tool you have used and a bit about your slide.
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead.
I prepared this presentation about him and I in Microsoft PowerPoint.
Mhm.
I used some tools to do this, like transition animations.
Mhm.
I choose the font and I browse after. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. There was a bit of disturbance, but it's a nice thing that you use all these features available in PowerPoint to show pictures and show titles and so on, animations and things like that. Right. Thank you so much. Anybody else who would like to continue? If not, we can continue with the rest of the session. We can give opportunity to at least 1 of you if you are interested. at least one more of you if you're interested. Let's take a couple of moments to see if we have more volunteers. And while we wait, let me thank all those who volunteered to show their slide and to speak up. I really appreciate your efforts, and we must all thank those who presented. Thank you so much. And anybody else who would like to do the same before we continue? Raise your hand again if you want to share your slide and talk about this. And it would have been nice if we used two tools mainly, Microsoft PowerPoint and Google presentations, Google Slides. Would have been nice to see somebody with another tool being used. Some of you, I know, are thinking back and forth. Should I do it? Maybe not. Go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so let me thank those who presented once again, and let me check the chat. There is, no, okay, that's the previous message. Okay, so let me add few things to this task that you did right now. So I gave a small task. It was spontaneous. I just did it. I didn't plan for that actually when I planned my presentation. Like I was telling you, even I prepared the slides and I practiced. I planned my presentation. While doing that, I did not actually plan this particular task. So it was spontaneous, but I think it went really well, given the fact that several of you took up the challenge and did a nice job by showing us your slide and talking a bit about that slide. And let me tell you that this was not only about using a particular presentation tool and preparing a slide and showing it and talking about it. It's so many other things as well. So it was a challenge given to you. It is about taking up a challenge that comes your way and doing whatever is supposed to be done. And also things like being creative while you do the task and so on. So this is something that you should get used to actually, right? While you are here as students at the university during your academic career, several such opportunities, big or small, will come your way. So it is all about whether you take up those challenges, whether you can complete a task with the given time restrictions, given instructions, given limitations, and so on, and complete a task successfully. So even life is all about challenge is given to you when an opportunity comes your way. Grab that opportunity and do something useful using that opportunity. So that's what you should get used to. And that's an important lesson that you should learn today. Next time onwards, whenever a challenge is presented, I'm going to take up that challenge and I'm going to do something useful with that challenge. So make that New Year resolution, so to say. So I'm sure you have several New Year resolutions or things that you would like to do before the end of the year. Like, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, like one of your colleagues said. So make it a point to do that next time onwards. So it was not only about this simple task that you did today. It's all about how you handle any given challenge that comes your way, right? Okay, so that's a little bit about the task that you did. So let's continue. Let me continue by sharing the slides again. So we went through all this. Please check and explore the other options as well. And you can try your own presentations by using these tools and get some experience of using these tools, right? So as we all agree, PowerPoint is one of the main tools that is used when you create presentations. That was evident when I asked you to do the task as well. Many of you use PowerPoint as the tool to create your slide, right? Now we will talk about that a little bit because that is what most of the times you will be doing, unless and otherwise it is specifically required for you to use another tool. Most of the times you will be using Microsoft PowerPoint as a presentation tool. So keeping that as an example, let's talk about some useful tips again about preparing slides using Microsoft PowerPoint, right? And the things that we talk about here are not only limited to using Microsoft PowerPoint as the tool to create presentations, but we mainly concentrate on one tool and talk about things. You can apply the same tips to other tools as well as and when possible, right? So this is about how you prepare your slides of your oral presentation, right? So when you prepare your slides, these are some guidelines you can use in order to come up with a good set of slides. So the first useful tip that is mentioned here is it's good to have one message per slide. Remember, we talked about thinking of our audience. It will be easier for the audience to follow your presentation if you have this one message per slide. If you try to talk about too many things in one slide, it will be, for one thing, difficult for the audience to understand what you are going to talk about, what you talk about, and grasp the main idea that you want to convey, right? So whenever possible, it's advised that you keep to this rule, one message per slide. And also, if you try to include too much text on your slides, the audience will have to read that long text. And when you are presenting, you will also be speaking. That's not a good idea. Because then the audience is distracted. They have to concentrate on what is mentioned on the slide, a long text that they have to read, as well as they have to listen to what you say, which is not easy, right? So what you're actually doing is to use PowerPoint or any other presentation tool for what it is supposed to be used. You put short text and you have images to support and you explain the details as the presenter, right? If you try to include all the details on the slide and while audience is trying to read that, if you also talk about that, that is not going to help, right? So you use PowerPoint as the tool to support you to do the presentation. You explain the things in detail, but in short text and maybe images, you include the main idea on the slide, right? And we already talked about headlines before, headings. So when you think about putting headings for your presentation slides, I have done it here. I have usually the large fonts to create the headings, as you can see here as well. But the fact is you don't have to follow that rule always. Now look at this slide carefully. Now the title or the heading is in large font size. Compared to that, the rest of the slide has relatively smaller and smaller font sizes, right? Now look at this slide and now compare it to this slide. Now, what happens here is you have the heading in smaller font, but the first bullet point has a larger font size. You can do that actually if you want to grab the audience attention to this particular point that you want to highlight on the slide. So what I'm saying here is, it is not necessarily the case that you always have to use your headings in larger font compared to the rest of the text on the slide. So depending on what you want to highlight on the slide, you might want to change it a bit and highlight in larger font sizes other parts of the slide other than the heading. So continuing on useful tips, if you think about the background, look at the slides and the background I have. This is what we normally do when we create academic type of presentations. Your background is not cluttered. Now, since you did the task of creating slides on your own, now you can compare this to what you have done. Think of the backgrounds you have used. Of course, if it is a commercial type presentation, you might want to use a lot of color and nice background images and all to grab the attention of the audience. But when it comes to academic presentations, we keep it at a minimum level. We try not to use cluttered backgrounds. So it is advised not to use cluttered backgrounds unless and otherwise it's absolutely necessary to highlight something in what you present. So your focus of your audience should be on the content of the presentation, not the colors and the background, which might be distracting. So that's the idea we are using here as well. My backgrounds are very plain because I want to highlight the content of the slides here, right? So the other thing you have to think of is the audience should ideally be concentrating on you as the presenter, not the presentation, not the slides. The slides are there just to be used as a visual aid, which means it is there to support you when you do the presentation. So the focus should not be the presentation. Focus should be you, the presenter. You will be presenting and your tool is there as an aid for you to support your presentation. So keep that always in mind. When you do the presentations, don't try to... Now, this is also something that we oftentimes see when students present. The students who are presenting oftentimes think, okay, when I show the slides, everybody will be looking at the slides. They will not be looking at me. So I can safely hide behind the slides and do my presentation. This happens when you have a stage fright and when you are nervous and so on about going in front of an audience and presenting. Everybody has that, even those who are experienced as speakers and presenters. Anybody has some amount of nervousness and stage fright when they go in front of especially a large audience. So there are other ways you can cope with that, but not by trying to hide behind your presentation slides. So that is something you have to think about. So always when you go in front of an audience to do your oral presentation, you have to keep in mind that you are the one who should be in focus. Your audience should be mainly concentrating on you as the presenter, and the slides you are using should just be used as a visual aid to help you do the presentation, right? Keep that in mind. Over the years, as students here, when you do your presentations, you will be doing several academic presentations here, oral presentations. Over the years, you will get used to doing that, and you will overcome your stage fright and reluctance to go in front of an audience and talk and so, right? So that you can do easily because we have enough number of presentations that we will ask you to do during different levels and different courses and so, right? So keep that in mind. Presentations are simply a visual aid, a tool that you are going to use in order to do the presentation. So you have to make sure the audience attention is on you, and whenever necessary, you will direct them to the slides that you are using in order to help you do the presentation there. So that's something you have to keep in mind. All in all, what you have to think about, what you have to keep in mind is this. With all these available tools and resources that are out there that you can easily access, there's a huge tendency for you to include as much as possible on your presentations when you create your slides. Because they are already available, you can easily access them, and so many relevant things are there. You would like to include all of them in your presentation. But this is the rule of thumb you have to keep in mind. Less is more. So you include on your slides what is absolutely necessary and not more, right? So you keep your background as clean as possible, not cluttered, as less text as possible, as minimum number of images as possible. Sometimes you feel like including images just because it is remotely relevant to the content of the slide, and the image looks really nice. Don't do that. You include images, figures, and pictures only if it is relevant to the content and it helps you explain things clearly, easily, using whatever the images you are including on the slide. And you might have seen oftentimes there are these tiny animations by the side of the slides that people include. They might be remotely relevant to the topic, but not adding anything more to what you are presenting. What it does is only distracting your audience, because when you have a tiny figure dancing by the side of your slide, your attention goes to that. The audience attention will go to that, and they will lose track of what you are talking about. So don't include such things unless and otherwise it is part of your presentation, and you need to use that in order to explain something that you are presenting. Okay, there's a raised hand. Lakshmi, do you want to talk? Yes, Lakshmi. Would you like to speak up, or would you like to share something? You can unmute yourself and talk. No? Okay, continue. So keep this rule in mind. Less is more, right? So this brings us to the end of the main things that I want to convey during the session today about doing academic presentations. The first section, oral presentation. So what we talked about today was what are the things that you have to concentrate on when you get ready to do an oral presentation? How do you prepare for the presentation? What are the things that you have to be concerned about? Some useful tips that you can use. Then we also talked about different tools that are out there that you can make use of in order to prepare your oral presentation slides mainly, right? And we talked about what things to be done and what is good to be done and what is good not to be done and so on, right? So this was the main content that I wanted to discuss today. And as the last part of this, let's try this one. I actually wanted to show you what a good presentation would look like in real life scenarios, right? So since we have limited time, I thought of including a very short presentation that you can listen to. Let's hope this works. This is actually coming from what we call, let me go to that slide. Okay, before going into that, let me quickly remind this also, because it will be useful for you to keep this also in mind before we actually look at the actual presentation that I'm going to share, right? So we said when we do academic presentations, one of the main reasons why you do a presentation is because it's part of your evaluation of a course or a program. So it might be useful for you to know how those evaluations are done and what evaluators are checking when you do an oral presentation. So let's quickly go through this part as well before I show you the actual presentation that I wanted to share, because there also it has been evaluated and you will see why I have picked that particular presentation as a good one to look at, right? Based on the evaluation mainly, right? So let's look at this quickly. What do evaluators check? What do you think? What might they be looking at when you do a presentation? Now that you know that presentations is going to be a part of your academic career here, what you are learning here and what you do as courses here, it's good to know this. What do you think the evaluators are checking when you do your presentation? Let's hear from you first. Any answers? Any thoughts? I would like you to give some answers, share your thoughts first, then we'll look at what we as evaluators are checking when you do presentations. Okay, I think I have missed one link Meshan had shared. I think Meshan had created his presentation slide using Canva. I'm sorry, I missed that. Thank you for sharing that link. I will definitely check that out. Okay, Anuttara, your point is very much valid. What you say is you have to have eye contact with the audience. That's an important thing that we have to always remember. So when you do the presentation, the presenter keeping eye contact with the audience enables him or her to deliver the message more effectively. The audience tend to believe you when you maintain eye contact. If you try to avoid eye contact, that shows that you are not very confident in presenting and maybe you are not very sure about what you're presenting, right? So maintaining eye contact brings a rapport with the audience, creates a rapport with the audience, and it makes it easier for you to deliver your message to the audience. So that's a very good point. Maintaining eye contact is very much essential when you do presentations. You build a trust with the audience when you maintain eye contact. And also I might add something there. Like we already mentioned, we are going in front of an audience is some people are reluctant to do that because it's not the easiest thing to do, right? You might be having stage fright and you are nervous and so on. All these things are there. It's not an easy thing. And on top of that, when you are asked to maintain eye contact with the audience, that makes it even worse. So you can use some tips again there. One of the tricks that you can use is, at least at the early stage of your presentations, is when you go in front of the audience, you look at the audience, but just to avoid the direct eye contact, which makes you even more nervous, you look slightly above their eye level when you look at the audience. So you don't directly meet their eye, but it feels as if that you are looking at the audience and maintaining eye contact. So you look slightly above the eye level of the audience, at least at the early stage. That's a trick that you can use until you get used to presenting in front of an audience. So that's a good point, Anuttara. Thank you for bringing that up. So coming back to my original question, what do you think the evaluators are checking when you do the oral presentations? Any answers you would like to share? This is important to know what you are being evaluated on, because that's what is giving you marks for one thing. Okay, right. Chanupa says being confident, presenting in a friendly manner, and then Minha says main topic, related points, pictures, fonts, and colors. Then 2269 says whether you are loud and clear. And then Yasitmi says audience, rather evaluators are checking whether your presentation is clear and is logical. Very good. So all these are very much relevant points that you are bringing up. So let's see what I have here. These are the points that are mainly being evaluated when you do your academic presentations. So some of the points here are the ones that you have already mentioned. As you can see, we check the content of your presentation. It should be relevant to the topic that you are presenting. Clarity is essential. Consistency is checked. Whether you have planned your presentation well. Oftentimes we can easily see whether the presentation was well planned or it was done in a hurry. It's not very difficult to figure that out. So as students, when you do your presentations, be mindful about that. If you spend just 1 hour to quickly grab something and get ready because you didn't have time to do that, that clearly shows when you are presenting, right? So be careful with that. Then whether you are confidently presenting, because it shows that you have spent enough time learning the topic and understanding the content, and you know what you are presenting, and that gives you enough confidence to go in front of the evaluators and present the content of your presentation, right? So these are the main things evaluators are looking at, in addition to your timing, for example. Whether you adhere to the guidelines given on timing. If it is a 10-minute presentation, you presenting it within 5 minutes is bad, as well as you presenting it in 15, 20 minutes is also bad. So using less time is also bad. So the time is allocated because we want you to use that particular allocated amount of time to show us what you have done related to the presentation, right? So finishing it in 5 minutes means maybe you have not done enough work. Taking too much time might mean that you have not prepared well for your presentation. Because oftentimes what happens is you take too much time because you have too many things to say. And you feel time is not enough and you think it's okay to take more time because you are talking about more things and that will be impressive for the evaluators. Not the case, because we want whatever the amount of things that you have to say, you have to learn to say it within the allocated time. And that is exactly why I picked this presentation that I am going to show you as well. And I'll explain why I have picked it when I am about to show it, right? So the last point is also very important. Oftentimes, when you have your presentation, almost always, after the presentations, there will be a Q&A session, within which the examiners, the evaluators will ask a lot of questions about what you have presented, right? So how you tackle those questions, how you handle the questions, how you answer the questions is one key thing that we evaluate. That doesn't mean that you have to know answers to all the questions that are asked when you are presenting. It simply shows, it simply is evaluating how you handle the questions. So this is also related to what I have been talking about all this time. So when you present, when you are asked a question, sometimes you know the answer. So if you know the answer, you can give the answer. Sometimes you know part of the answer, but you are not very sure about the answer. So in such cases, you explain the part that you know about, you are aware of, but then you have to mention that the other part that you are not sure about is something that you have to study more, look up and learn. So that is also something you have to show to the evaluators. Your willingness to learn. If you don't know that, your willingness to learn and expand your knowledge on the topic that you are presenting, right? And the third case is the case where you have no clue what the answer should be. So oftentimes we see students trying to give an answer. You struggle to find some answer relevant to the question, or at least remotely relevant to the question. You don't have to do that. If you don't know, you don't know. So just be frank about it. But then again, you can't just say, I don't know. You have to handle that question in a nice way, in a professional manner. So what do? You thank the examiner for asking the question or the evaluator for asking the question. And you be frank and say that you don't have an answer at that moment. And again, show that you are willing to find an answer. That will definitely give a very positive impression about you. Rather than try to cook up some answer, at least remotely relevant. And in doing so, you might make a lot of mistakes as well. So instead of doing that, be frank, be very professional, be polite, and thank the person who answered the question. And then show that you are willing to learn, explore more, to find an answer to the question that you don't know an answer for, right? So that's easy as that. And also you have to show enthusiasm about the topic that you are presenting, right? And also there are small tricks again about handling questions. For example, when you need time to think about an answer, a proper answer to be given to the question, you know the answer, but you want to formulate in a nice way, you can use some tricks. When a question is asked by an evaluator, you can repeat the question yourself. Or if there are cases where the question is not very clear to you, again, don't be afraid to ask the evaluator to repeat the question. You can do that in a polite way again. You can say, I'm sorry, I didn't get the question properly. Can you please repeat? Or in other cases, when you need a little more time to formulate your answer, you know the answer, you need to formulate it, you can rephrase the question yourself. Okay, you are asking this, and then you continue with your answer. That will give you a little time to come up with your answer in a nice way. So these are small tricks that you can use when you answer questions, but it is an essential part that will be evaluated by the evaluators. How you handle the questions, how you give an answer to the questions that are asked, right? Okay. Now, this is what I wanted to show you as an example presentation. I mentioned that I picked this one specifically for a number of reasons. One, it is done by a Sri Lankan who is studying in Monash University. This shows the ample amount of opportunities that will come your way once you graduate from especially a university like Peradeniya. And this also shows other things. As you can see, it goes as the 3-minute thesis presentations. This was from 2019. You can look up, there are enough number of nice 3-minute presentations that you can listen to. I picked this one specifically because of a specific reason. Remember, we talked about adhering to the time guidelines. And we also talked about the fact that it might be difficult to talk about all the things that you want to talk within a limited time, like 10 minutes. This gives you 3 minutes. 3 minutes to talk about a research, oftentimes a PhD research. For a PhD, you spend roughly from 3 to 5 years. All that work you do in that amount of time, you are given 3 minutes to present, which is quite possible if you plan well. So that is exactly why I picked this particular presentation to show that you can still do that effectively. And like I said, the second reason why I picked this particular presentation is because it's done by a Sri Lankan who has been studying. There, she must have graduated by now because this was from 2019. But still, it's nice presentation to look at. So let me try playing this. I think I have to share sound. Let me know if you cannot hear. Can try again. Can you hear? Say yes in the chat or Q&A if you can hear. Okay, good. I'll go back and pick from there.
From the Faculty of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences is Lakshani C. Wickramasinghe, who is looking at eyes, lungs and Wonder Baby.
Stevie Wonder is a legend. Not only can he sing, but he is also an inspiration, achieving everything that he has despite losing his vision as a baby. But exactly how did he become blind? Well, when Stevie was born, he didn't come out kicking and
From the Faculty of Medicine, Nursing and Health Sciences is Lakshani C. Wickramasinghe, who is looking at eyes, lungs and Wonder Baby.
Stevie Wonder is a legend. Not only can he sing, but he is also an inspiration, achieving everything that he has despite losing his vision as a baby. But exactly how did he become blind? Well, when Stevie was born, he didn't come out kicking and screaming like any other healthy baby. Oh no. Instead, he came out silent, blue in the face, struggling to breathe. He needed oxygen immediately, so the doctors quickly put Stevie into a glass chamber and exposed him to high oxygen. And within seconds, life was returning back to his body. This life and death scenario is one faced by 15 million babies born premature or preterm each year around the world. As the earlier a baby is born during pregnancy, the less likely their bodies will be ready for life outside of the womb. Just like Stevie, who was born 6 weeks too early. As a consequence, these babies have a greater dependency on high oxygen for survival. But this life-saving oxygen can lead to 2 severe diseases. The first is an eye disease called retinopathy of prematurity, ROP, which causes damage to the retina, leading to blindness. This is how Stevie lost his vision. The second is a lung disease called bronchopulmonary dysplasia, BPD, which can lead to breathing difficulties even as an adult. So consider this. Stevie lost his vision, but imagine if he also lost his ability to breathe properly. This is the reality. For 72% of preterm babies, and no cure exists for either disease. Despite such a high incidence, the relationship between the eyes and the lungs has not been well researched. And one of the major reasons for this is that there is no suitable animal model available that looks at the eyes and the lungs concurrently. But for my PhD, I aim to address this gap in research by establishing a new model that develops the eye disease, ROP, and the lung disease, BPD, simultaneously in one animal. To do this, I will take newborn mice and put them into a high oxygen chamber to mimic a preterm baby in the hospital. Afterwards, I will look at their eyes and their lungs to see if the damage accurately reflects disease in a human baby. If successfully developed, this unique animal model will allow us to further research the relationship between the eyes and the lungs, bringing us closer to the ultimate goal, which is to develop a single treatment that can prevent 2 devastating diseases that affect preterm babies. I think even good old Stevie would be singing along to this tune, wouldn't you?
Okay, so that's just an example of how an effective presentation could be done. I hope you all could hear that, but I would also like you to look it up. There are, like I said, enough 3MT presentations that you can look at if you search, and you will learn a lot about how an effective presentation could be done. So that actually brings us to the end of our session today. So let me conclude with the last slide. So now we are at the end of the session for today. So this is just a quote I wanted to use as the concluding remark and your take-home message from this session. What we have talked about today is how an effective academic presentation can be prepared, what tools can be used, what things to consider, what things to not consider. And we also looked at some example tools. There's a raised hand. Let me check it quickly. Okay, probably not. Right, okay. So that's what we have been looking at. We talked about some tools that can be used. You tried using those tools as well. Like I already mentioned, I advised you to continue exploring such tools and try to learn a bit more about those tools. You will be learning a lot more about those tools while you are here, but maybe it's a good thing to start already now, right? And as the last part, we took 3 minutes actually to look at an example of how an effective presentation can be done, right? So that brings us to the end of the session today, and we will be continuing on 19th with the second part of your the session on academic presentations, where we talk about written academic presentations. So I will give you a few minutes if you have comments or questions. Otherwise, we can conclude the session and meet again on 19th to continue the discussion. Okay, I assume there are no comments. So we'll wind up the session and meet again on 19th to continue the discussion. Have a good day. Thank you.